Dr. Schaller wasted no time, and soon after graduating from the University of Alaska in 1955, he embarked upon a groundbreaking biological survey of what was to become the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, with legendary researchers Olaus and Marty Murray in the summer of 1956. But it would be his next field research experience that would transform not only him, but how we as humans viewed these so-called savages. It would take 40 years, but George Schaller would find his answer. His work with mountain gorillas began back in 1959 at the age of 26. He and his wife Kay embarked on a mission to interpret the secluded lives of the gorillas in Rwanda that would ultimately shatter the myths that gorillas were savage beasts. He and Kay quickly found distinct groups of mountain gorillas. One group in particular fascinated him. He wrote, "Big Daddy was the undisputed leader of the group. He was a benign dictator. And Junior, there was a recklessness in his face and a natural mischievousness which even his inherent reserve could not hide. His insights, linking their behavior with those of humans, pointing out their ambitions and fears, marked a transition point in global perceptions of the animals." Due to civil unrest, Schaller's work in the Congo was cut short after little more than 1 year. But his groundbreaking research laid the foundation for other researchers and conservationists, such as Diane Fossey, and for the Mountain Gorilla Project, which helped establish gorilla education and tourism programs. Yet, even with the increased understanding of the species, survival was far from assured. Deforestation, poaching, and farming threatened to encroach upon the gorilla's already limited habitat. Between Schaller's 1960 departure and 1973, almost half of the mountain gorilla population would be lost. 40 years after his departure, Schaller returned to the midst of the Virunga volcanoes. There he observed with sadness the decline of the population, yet the trip would also inspire awe. As he quietly observed the group of mountain gorillas, his field notes tell the story. "Something touches my lower leg, a gentle tap as if with the back of the hand. A female gorilla named Gakunda with an infant on her back is beside me, trying to get by. Oops, sorry, I say and step aside. She squeezes by. It was an honor, a compliment to be treated just like another gorilla, as kin. Gakunda touched me." At the intersection of ape and human, Schaller had found a bridge between the species that illuminated not the differences between us, but the common path we travel. He would later describe it as the most wonderful experience of his professional life. Mountain gorilla populations are a small success story in the conservation world, experiencing a steady growth, currently with an estimated 380 in the area where Schaller once studied, and 450 projected in the near future. A case can be made that, without his efforts at that critical juncture in 1959, they may have suffered a much different fate. And we want to remind you that if you have questions this evening, you can call the 800 number you see on your screen or email questions as well to Dr. Schaller. We also want to welcome our studio audience here this evening in Muncie, Indiana, and they're going to be asking questions as well. So please, this is your program. It's time for you to interact with George Schaller. Dr. Schaller, real quickly, you're headed back to see the gorillas coming up next year. Is that correct?
Oh, I'll go in January. I go at intervals to see how things are doing, to encourage the local park staff, which has done a tremendous job through genocide and war that still continues. So I have tremendous admiration for the Rwanda and Congolese park staff there.
We alluded to it there in the video piece about the connection between human and the gorilla, but you say you really can't look into a gorilla's eyes without feeling that connection. Is that right?
Yeah, you know, they're big, beautiful, cuddly. You feel you put your arm around them.
Do you think they feel the same way about you and about us?
They try, but you're not supposed to touch them because there's fear that you transmit human diseases to the gorillas.
So that the touch against your leg.
Well, I was simply treated as another gorilla. rather gentle tap to get out of the way.
Your initial, your initial foray there, people told you that these were savage beasts, not meant to be approached. How did you get around that?
Oh, very simple. It depends on your attitude toward animals. If you feel animals are basically peaceful, they'll only attack if you are aggressive toward them. If you're gentle, if you learn their behavior so you don't do actions that aggravate them, they become habituated, they become tame toward you.
A great example of that is in the Congo and Rwanda with the Mountain Gorilla Project, is that right?
Rwanda is a wonderful example of what local people can do. Foreigners came in, they helped habituate the gorillas, and that then became a tourism industry. And suddenly Rwanda saw that people are excited about Rwanda. They come and pay money to see the gorillas. That helps the government, it helps the local people. But more than that, it gave Rwanda an identity in the world, and they're very proud of it. So in spite of genocide, civil wars that are still going on, everybody, whether it's a rebel leader or government, says we must protect our gorillas. And they have done it. Sure, occasionally one gets killed and it makes publicity. But the fact is that since the 70s, the number of gorillas have steadily gone up. And I think it's absolutely wonderful that a small, poor country can take a gorilla really as its symbol and protect it in spite of poverty and need for resources and so forth.
And over the years, you really get to know these animals because they're all named. The park rangers all know their names, and so you actually get to follow them through the years. How is that to reconnect with them over time?
Well, it's wonderful. The park staff, I was there last in 2001, I'll go again soon. They know all the gorillas in the area by name. And that's, when I was there in that one area, there were over 160. The park guide can tell me this is this one, Amahoro, this is Bakunda, et cetera, and it's nice to see because gorillas live a long time. So those animals that I probably knew when they were babies. And that's the kind of interactions people need to have with animal. When you have empathy, when your emotion is involved, that's when you're really concerned about saving them. The science is useful. The scientific work I did was good to show that they're not ferocious. But the empathy that's since developed between people is what is going to save them.